Howdy, I'm Mitchell Whittington from the Visit Jefferson YouTube channel. It's really easy to find. All you have to do is type in www.visitjefferson.com in any browser and you'll be taken straight to the channel. Well, today I have a mystery for you. You know, a big part of my job as a writer is doing research, and I find historical mysteries from the past to be particularly fascinating. You know, whenever I'm doing historical research and I run across just a little nugget that I can't explain, it makes me want to dive in and dig all the deeper, which is what this one is about. This one begins in the Lockett Family Cemetery just north of Jefferson. In the corner of the cemetery, there's a small headstone that simply reads, "Unknown Union Soldier, died 1865. Well, that particular grave fascinated me. No information about it, I'd never heard anything, so I immediately wanted to get the real story. I started out at the museum, the Jefferson Historical Museum, where the archive room is filled with information. I mean, it's my favorite place to do research. So I started looking for anything about the Lockett Cemetery or the Lockett family and really couldn't find anything. History books, books about the Civil War in Marion County, all those things. I went through them with a fine-tooth comb and could not find anything about an unknown Union soldier being buried there. So I started looking a little bit further. The first clue I got was on the historical marker at the cemetery. It was placed there by the Historical Commission in 1999, and in the marker text it says, quote, "According to family oral history, a Union soldier who died on the Lockett plantation is also buried in the graveyard," end quote. Well, that gave me a little clue, and usually when there's a historical marker, the local county historical commission has a dedication ceremony for it, and sure enough, I found an article in the Jefferson Jimplecute newspaper on April 1st, 2000, talking about that particular marker, and it even mentioned Paul Lockett from the Lockett family giving a family history, including that of the unknown Union soldier. Of course, I immediately wanted to interview him, but unfortunately he passed away several years ago, but thankfully the Jefferson Jimplecute recorded his memories of the Union soldier. Another source I found is the RootsWeb genealogical website. According to RootsWeb for the Lockett Cemetery, a lady named Mary Lee Watson Knight interviewed a number of the Lockett descendants to get information about the unknown Union soldier. And finally, I was able to interview Lockett descendant Kimberly LeBrun, and she told me that she grew up hearing the legend of the Union soldier. She'd been out there and she'd seen the grave marker many times. Well, you put all that together, so all those sources had a very similar story to tell, even though they were oral histories. Sometimes that can be one of our best resources. So you put them all together and you see that there's very little deviance in the actual story itself, which gave me an idea of what must have happened. Here's the basic story that the various oral history accounts tell. The Battle of Mansfield, Louisiana, was fought on April 8, 1864 as part of the Red River Campaign of the Civil War. It was a Confederate victory, and the Union troops turned and retreated. It was an important battle for Jefferson because if the Union troops had won and then managed to subsequently take Shreveport, their attention would have immediately turned to the port of Jefferson. So all these wonderful old homes and old buildings might not be here today if that had happened. But as the story goes, one Union soldier fled the battle, deserting his unit. This put him in an incredibly dangerous situation. If caught by Confederates, he would be taken prisoner, if not outright killed. If caught by Union soldiers, he could be shot for desertion, imprisoned, or even branded with a D for deserter to humiliate him for the rest of his life. And I'm talking about a real brand, like a cattle brand. Well, Mansfield is a little over 60 miles from Jefferson as the crow flies, and an average healthy person can walk about 6 miles a day. It would therefore have taken him at least 10 days to hike it, although unless he had a map and compass, he wouldn't have been able to head directly to Jefferson. It would have been a slow meandering, I guess. Of course, if he was wounded, this would make it take even longer. He would not only be avoiding the military on both sides, but law enforcement officers along the way, pretty much any contact with any authority figure. Family history indicates that he had collapsed in a ditch beside the road, and Dr. Lockett had him taken to the plantation. According to Lockett family history, In a few days to a week or so, the unknown soldier died. Although some people in the family were against it, Dr. Lockett buried the soldier at the Lockett Family Cemetery, but just outside the fence. After a number of years, the fence was replaced, and he was finally included in the cemetery proper. There are a few questions that this story raises, however. For example, the Battle of Mansfield was on April 8, 1864, but the grave marker for the unknown soldier lists his death in 1865. So where was he for those 8 months or so? I mean, it really shouldn't have taken him that long. Well, I've studied it and gone back to newspapers and tried to figure out what could have happened, and, well, I have one possible explanation. It's certainly not the only one, and I have no proof that it happened this way, but it would explain a lot of things. After leaving the Mansfield battlefield, the unknown soldier would be forced to forage for food, something that the Union troops were used to doing during the Red River Campaign. He'd probably enter empty houses and go through the pantry, and if he happened upon a house where someone had set a fresh pie on a windowsill to cool, that would be the highlight of his day. Along the way, he'd probably want to get rid of that Union uniform. It would be easy enough to look for a house with a clothesline that had a man's shirt and pants that might fit him, and steal them to mask his identity. To survive the trip home would take luck and also money. He'd have to have shelter and food, and if the soldier had any marketable skills, such as working in a sawmill, which was quite common in those days, he might take odd jobs here and there to earn some quick cash to allow him to press onward. A week or so here, a week or two there. It would all explain the months that he spent coming from Mansfield to Jefferson. Unfortunately, this raises even more questions. If he was found unconscious in a ditch, taken to the house, and then died a short time later, how did the Lockett family know he was a Union soldier? If he had been wearing his uniform for 8 months, it would be very gamey at that point, and probably in tatters, so I have to wonder about that. And as I pointed out earlier, he definitely wouldn't want to be seen in a Union uniform, so I'm sure that he would have shed it. More than that, how did they know that he had been at the Battle of Mansfield? If he had come to consciousness at some point and disclosed those things, I would think he would have given them his name as well, so he wouldn't be an unknown Union soldier. He would actually have a name. The family history indicates he was unconscious the whole time, though. It could be that if he did regain consciousness, even for a little bit, and told the Locketts his name and about Mansfield, when he died, instead of having a formal marker made, a large rock or something similar would probably have been used. They wouldn't have spent any extra money on a formal marker for a Union soldier. But that's exactly what the town did for Diamond Bessie, which is covered on another Visit Jefferson YouTube channel video. But anyway, when a modern marker was finally ordered for his grave a few generations later, at that point the name was just simply lost to time. But there are still more questions. If he had given his name to the Locketts, I can't help but think that Dr. Lockett would have tried to have gotten in touch with the family up north. If he cared enough to take him in to give him medical attention and then bury him next to the family cemetery, I have to think that the doctor would have tried to notify the soldier's family, but there's no Lockett family recollection of him doing so. I'm very intrigued by this grave in a small cemetery north of Jefferson. It's a mystery, and like I said at the start of the video, every fact that I uncovered brought up many more questions than answers. No matter what the unknown soldier's story actually was, this is a man who is buried in an anonymous grave. He might have had a young lady who was waiting on him back home, and a family that watched every day for him to return. But he never did. They probably checked the casualty reports in the newspaper every week, fearing that they would see his name, and relieved that they didn't. Until the war ended, and their loved one seems to have just disappeared. I'll be honest, that tugs at my heartstrings. I've been out to his grave several times just to pay my respects. I've even left a flower there to show that someone had visited. If you go, please let it be with reverence and respect for a person that we didn't know, but whose death was noticed without any fanfare or recognition. After all, we all deserve a little bit of respect, especially in death. To find the grave of the unknown Union soldier, start at the intersection of highways 49 and 59 in Jefferson. That's the traffic light where our McDonald's is. Go north for about 7.5 miles, and you'll see a sign for Dreesen Road. It's a left turn. Turn onto Dreesen Road and follow it for about a mile. You'll see the cemetery on the right. Walk in the front gate, immediately turn right, and walk the front fence line to the corner. Turn left at the corner, following the fence line, and the grave is just a couple of steps away. Well, thank you for watching this video. I appreciate you checking out the Visit Jefferson YouTube channel. If you found it interesting at all, please click on that subscribe button below. It doesn't sign you up for any weird mailing lists or anything. It just shoots you an email whenever a new video is posted. And we've got some great ones coming. We really do. So click on subscribe. And one more thing, if you would please take just an extra moment and click the little thumbs up. That really helps the channel. The YouTube overlords pay attention to that kind of thing. So if you would give us a like, a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. Well, thanks again, and I hope to see you around Jefferson.